have found our way. It's a brand new day, and we'll be making history. Are you with me? Won't you stay? We have come so far. This is who we are. And like the rising sun, we have just begun to play our part. This is the time we form the chorus. Lift your voice for those before us. We can rely on one another. Feel the pride, let's show our colors. We are heroes and dreamers. We are restless believers.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is Gail of Gaia, and this is Free Range, where we graze on wild ideas and have wonderful guests. Now, I have a very popular guest today, Kerry Cassidy, and we are going to talk about, she's going to give us an update on the intel that she gets, because when Kerry assesses something, I do listen. And I have some questions about where we're at as far as disclosure, where we're at as far as how are we liberated, and so on and so forth. So let me bring her on. Welcome, Kerry.
Hi, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I've been having a hard time with my shows lately because it's been raining and cloudy and nasty, so I hope we don't have any problems because it's satellite. Okay. But
hope not.
So if we do, we'll just have to move along as best we can. Anyway, I'm really honored to have you on. I appreciate your take on things, and I would like to definitely hear what you think. After I heard most of the speech, I didn't hear it all, but I, talked about it with others about the Liberation Day, and I'm going, where's the liberation? Maybe I'm blind to something, but maybe you can explain it to me. Because I thought that with the tariff thing, that if they charged 200, we were going to charge 200 and not half that amount, which is what it comes up to be now. So that was like, what? Wait a minute. Anyway, what's your take on all that?
Well, great to be here, Gail. So what I would say is that already, the stock market tanked today, I guess you heard, and they're acting they're acting like it's a big deal, and Europe is really fighting back in various places. So I think the reality is that Trump is actually kind of soft shoeing it in a way. So he's not going full force. And so I don't know what people think, out there, but why should we be paying for the whole world? That's what I want to know. And so I think that balancing the scales is a really good way to open trade, even in a more equal way, and to make sure that the United States is not taken down under the weight of supporting the rest of the world. So I think people have got the wrong end of the stick. I think they don't, acknowledge what has been happening to the United States all these years. And so I think Trump is right on in what he's trying to do. Now, I don't think that he's going to hold too hard on his certain levels. So I think he's going to do what he always does. Trump makes deals, right? So he's going to make the other person walk away happy. And so I think that some of this is just posturing. You can appreciate, right? So I think it's important to understand that when we watch the government, we are watching a play. I know the white hats always wanted to say that about themselves, but I have to say, I think it's more the government is doing the play, and the rest of us are trying to, I guess you might say, discern what's true, what's false, and what lies they're telling now. And I think there's a lot of lies going on right now. And
oh my God!
Trump is allowing for those lies, So I think the white hats and Trump are, in a certain sense, like with the signal situation. I think they're fomenting lies so that it exposes the farce that it has been out there. And there's been so many farcical things that have gone on, and things that are not balanced, that are unfair to the United States, as I was saying, and also to even to the whole world. That why should we be paying so much to people like China and so on? And I think also that this whole tariff thing is going down a road of even more free trade, so that eventually nobody will have to charge somebody to trade with them. If you can think about that, or maybe some minimal amount, like 10% or less, because why should there be anything, if you think about it? But I think that's what the White Hats and Trump have, a long-term plan. And so when he comes up with something that freaks people out, it's just to break the ice, so to speak, and to, focus people's minds to understand where we've stood in the past, where he wants us to stand now. And then when it all balances out, you'll kind of see it made sense what he did. That's my take on it.
Oh, okay, that's good. So what do you think he meant by the Liberation Day? What's the liberation part? That we're not paying for the rest of the countries?
Well, yeah, I mean, liberation for Americans, so that we're not, as I say, having to hold the burden on our shoulders for the entire world. That's a kind of liberation. You can probably drink to that.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I think it's, let's be honest. Let's tell it like it is. We have been paying the lion's share, even of NATO, from what I understand. So all of that needs to be rebalanced. And I'm not sure how this whole thing happened, but in terms of the United States kind of became the policeman of the world at the same time. I'm sure there was some level of quid pro quo going on even back in those days. But I can see where a rebalancing has to take place. And I think that Doge is also part of that rebalancing, cutting through the crap, getting rid of the old dead wood, getting rid of a lot of things that are actually in the way of us progressing as a society in the face of AI and all the future changes that are coming. So I think, if you have a short-term thinking, then you only look, a week or two in advance or a year or two in advance, and you think that's the whole world. And it's not how Trump is thinking. Trump is thinking long-term. The White Hats and Trump planned this whole thing. They planned it before he got into office. That's why he hit the ground running. He was ready to go because they'd already figured it all out. They have their agenda. They're rolling it out. That's what they're doing. So I respect that. I don't always agree with their tactics, but in this case, I think that we can see that Trump is headed in a good direction. I just wish people would hold a better, more uplifting view of him and the White Hats and what they're trying to do, and see that it may lead somewhere, even if it isn't there yet. So I just think people need to be more discerning. And I think that these years, as we kind of go into them, are going to reveal that these rush to judgment and thinking, because there's so many people out there that think they know he's a terrible person, he's a this, he's a that, he's, I don't know, all the evil things they want to accuse him of. And I just, has to have to take a step back and just wait a bit and let him do his job and let him, perform the way he wants to perform. And I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised as far as Trump goes. That's my feeling on that.
That's awesome. I think that's really true. It's just that and I keep saying, well, he's only been in office for 2 months. I mean, you expect miracles in 2 months. So, but he actually is like you said, and I've said, he hit the ground running, and he was prepared with a lot of different things ready to go. And there's and that includes a devolution plan.
That's right.
And a disclosure plan. I don't know that a lot of people even know what that means, especially the devolution.
Well, I would suggest going to a website called devolution.link. And there are many sort of, it's basically almost a book at this point of topics under devolution. And I actually think that when Trump was unable to take office in 2020, even though he won, that was in preparation, that devolution had been prepared, and that as an executive, and a president of a country, that when you've been invaded the way we were by the Chinese, communists, and the way they stole our election, the fact that we're still waiting for Trump to show us the proof of this, but those of us in the know that he has it. Okay, they have it all, as Jan Halper Hayes has said. So I think it's very important to keep that in mind, that even where we are right now, Trump has got many cards that he's holding, and cards that are going to reveal that he is, on top of his game, and that none of this is a surprise to them. On the other hand, I don't want to make it sound like easy street, because we also have, the dark side that has been also preparing for Trump in their way, right? And they're rolling things out to make people think that it's a bad thing that he's in office, obviously, and to undercut his following and all of that. I think the reality is they're going to fail, as they have for many years now. And I think that even this latest stock market drop, they manipulate the stock market. They can do whatever they want with it. So this may have nothing to do with the rollout of the tariffs, but it is going to look that way. So that's how all the pundits out in the mainstream news, that, I think it's kind of interesting that the Trump administration and the White Hats have decided to keep the insane left, media, and the people, on the mainstream news broadcasts, who still are lying to the people on a regular basis. Yeah. And so I think in a way that was a conscious decision, because instead of throwing those people out, which of course you people like us would love to see, and them replaced by authentic, real, alternative, even journalists, they're keeping them because I think they want to make fools of them. And I think it's going to be shown more and more and more. These people are going to have to come to terms with the fact that they were wrong time and time again. And I think that's what's going to be shown. So, I don't love this way of operating personally. It kind of goes against my grain. They want to show them, not tell them, the whole routine, right? The white hat philosophy. And they also, keep their friends close, but their enemies closer. That's always, remember that. So recently, even in a show, what is this? My phone's turned off, so that should not have happened, but computer does kind of want to
weird things happen lately.
It won't happen again. But so you see what I'm saying is just that they have a philosophy, and people that have been watching this show roll out, and the white hats play their hand and the dark hats play theirs in response, and vice versa. I think if you realize that there's an agenda there, there's planning, right? There's even AI on both sides. I like to have to remind people of this. Yeah. So they have, run this through hundreds of thousands of times. On the white hat side, they're looking for the least loss of life, you know, in some ways. Okay. I believe that that is one of their prime, like when they feed the data into the computer or whatever it is, right? So that becomes a, you know, a priority. And then they've got other priorities, right? So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with, you know, it's real life as opposed to a fantasy, you know. So people that are you know, wanting things to roll out in a very simple way and straightforward, they don't get it because it's a spy against spy on both sides, right? So games are afoot. It's constant. And politics has always been like that. I mean, I think even going back, you know, thousands of years, they were playing games like this, you know, on surface earth and underground and so on and so forth, hiding the big secrets from the real people. Even when I go to Egypt, it's obvious. I mean, the place is locked down. They will not allow people to really tell you and show you what our technology is capable of showing you. So, you know, there's been a lot of, you know, semi-disclosures that have come out recently with the Italian team. I guess you heard about that. And I've been looking into that fairly deeply. And I'm sort of amazed to see that most people out there, and most of the archaeologists kind of miss the point. It's kind of funny. Everyone is so short-sighted. They only see what's right in front of their face, right? They only see whether this SAR technology, SAR, you know, synthetic radar, whatever it's called, aperture radar. So it's run through a new software that's more, I guess, detects motion on the surface of the Earth. So it's not even actually looking inside the Earth. It's showing a reflection that if something is moving on the surface, it's indicating something underneath. And this is all leading in the direction of the halls of Amenti, ascension, and various other things. So I just don't see the long view as part of people's analysis for the most part. I just see, you know, everywhere across the board, whether it's even when it's alternative. I think by and large, you know, a lot of people want to have a headline, even the alternative, right? So they want to shout to the, you know, rafters, some big headline, Trump did this today, Trump did that today. You know, I can't really live my life like that. You know, I can't focus so much on what our government is doing. I'm a little more interested in what I'm doing. Now I need to report on it, so I can't completely ignore it, which is probably what I'd like to do. But you know what I'm saying? In other words, when I'm hearing from both sides, I'm hearing lies. I'm seeing the truth is peppered with lies. And I get very, I tend to get frustrated with that, but I'm also resigned to it at this point because even all through these years when we're waiting for Trump to get back in office and what we're, you know, on pins and needles and so on and so forth, there was lots of misleading kind of things going on. And even 107, you know, whether he's consciously doing it or whether he's not totally in the know, I don't know. But some of the things he's talked about just have not happened yet. Okay. So timing is always a difficult thing to call. If you're dependent on an AI to tell you the future, maybe there is a discretion that goes along with that, where the AI doesn't always understand humans and how things are going to play out around us. And maybe the X factor, you know, AI has to deal with God just like humans do. You want to call it God, you call it X factor, you call
source,
it
whatever,
the source, you call it
creator,
whatever you want to call it. But there's an element to our lives that is, you know, involves things like miracles, things that can't be explained in a logical way, right?
Right. That's what sometimes I have people like, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? And why isn't it on, you know, I don't know if it's ever going to be on MSN, but right now they're showing their true colors because they're lying. And what do we say? It's promises, hearsay, and lies. That's all we keep hearing. and because the truth.
But I mean, we're
resonates.
also seeing promises kept. I mean, you know, what Trump said he would do, he is doing for the most part. Okay.
That's a good point right there. Yeah.
But he doesn't run the world. I mean, you know, even though it might appear that he does, you know, so he can't be completely in control of the dark side either. Okay. And that's been a point of contention between me and several of my colleagues. I want to say Trump, he's in charge. The white hats are in charge. They're, you know, like they're never going to be surprised about anything. That's not true. And you know, maybe it's a military tactic, you know, the Xenobor or whatever they call it. You know, the bottom line where they don't want to reveal when they haven't known what was going to happen. And they have been caught off guard because there have been items like that. Okay. Even, you know, you could go down to Florida and the building near Ivanka's, I think it was Ivanka's, the place she lives in Florida that was taken down, the apartment building with McAfee's information supposedly in the basement in a vault or whatever. Whether it got out or it's still, these things have not come out. Okay. Now we've got bits and pieces of the Kennedy assassination, but what I'm trying to say here is that this is a moving target. And the whole ET side, which is also to do with the inner Earth civilizations, they have a role to play. And pretending that they don't exist, you know, simplifies your analysis of you know, politics. But politics on Earth is exopolitics. It involves politics off planet. So, you know, if you don't understand that, if you don't want to take that on board, you're just not getting it. There's too much that you're going to overlook and too many deceptions happening. So, and this gets into Israel, because Israel is a point of contention for a lot of people, especially on the MAGA side, who think they're this and they're that and so, but they're not taking into account the Anunnaki and the real history of humanity that does involve Israel and does involve them being actually manipulated, the people of Israel, in certain directions. You know, their leaders, I would mark as guilty, definitely, because they're in the know to some degree. But I have to say, there's just a misconception of that culture, of what's really going on. People look for someone to blame. But when you look at the playing field and you cut out a huge population that even involves off-planet and, as I say, inner Earth races, and a secret space program that we operate that goes off-planet, that is building colonies off-planet, that is selling lands in Africa, as Gordon Duff said. He released that information a long time ago on Veterans Today. And now, again, he has a new website. It's called the Intel Drop, and he's dropping information. And I just got, some information sent to me from there that I posted on my Telegram, all about the money going off planet, the gold that's gone off planet, volumes of gold. And I was told about that, or in Project Camelot, we were told about that many, many years ago, that on a regular basis. And in this case, we were told it was going out of the runways of South Africa. So I assume that's still going on. And they're saying, indeed, it has been going on for years. And that the reason for gold is so precious is not so much that it's a mineral, whatever, is because it allows you to go interdimensional. It's very vital for not only space travel, but planets that might want to go interdimensional, planetoids, and so on. So if you start to understand that, and one thing that was in this article, and I can link it and put it on the screen if you want, but one of the things that they were talking about was the fact that gold has a memory like water. And
really?
Yeah. And I thought that was really fascinating.
Wow,
and that
is.
is part of the reason they say that, temples and various, ancient sites were built using gold, like plentiful amounts of gold. And it wasn't just because they were, obsessed with, gold and diamonds or something, but because it actually has memory. And so it has also, I guess, a staying power on at least this planet and apparently Nibiru and possibly others. So, these are just bits and pieces that you add on when you're trying to understand the big picture. And when you don't know anything about like the secret side of things and you try to most of these pundits, they don't know anything about the secret world, right? I've spent 20 years talking to whistleblowers about the secret world, but they don't know anything, these people. And yet they think they can evaluate what's going on. They're blind.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a large group of people don't even, because of those religions, don't even believe that there are extraterrestrials and we're the only people in the entire universe. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Really? That kind of thing is a real problem. And so that just adds to the confusion and the lack of knowledge and so on. That's fascinating about gold. I hadn't heard that or read that.
Right. And so if people are interested, go to my Telegram channel. Is there a way for me to post into the chat? We have a chat room.
I'll tell you, if you put it in our private chat, I will post it in the chat.
Okay. I don't know how to do that actually, but
okay.
I see that we've got a private chat. I see that. This is where I put it. Okay. So, yeah. So it's just my Telegram channel. I'll get the link and put it in there. Another thing I was wondering, because I don't know, is this a live show? You have a chat room. I'd like to share it on my Telegram so people can watch live here. If you didn't give me a link, so if you could put that in the chat. Then I could copy and paste it onto my website. I don't know if you're able to do that now or if it's just too difficult, but it's great to have a larger live audience, but I need a link to share.
Okay. Wait. Pudwacker says,
if it's too difficult, I understand, don't worry.
Pudwacker says, I'm on your Telegram, Kerry.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I need to put a link for some people will be smart enough and follow me. And of course, they'll know how to go to my Telegram. But I didn't announce this yet on my Telegram because I didn't have a live link for the show itself. So
let me see. So would that just be your Telegram link then?
Well, what I'm saying is I'll give you my Telegram link. Okay. But if you would give me the link to this show. You understand what I'm saying? This show has a link. Yeah. Then I can actually share it with my audience. That's all. If it's doable. I realize that this is kind of like in the middle of the show. I just slipped my mind. I was going to ask you before, but
I have to see if I can find that. Chat captions here. It might be in here. Now that would be a link to the live show, but that's on my. I don't know if I can do yours.
You have to give it to me in the private chat so that I can get it.
Oh, okay.
I just gave you my Telegram for you to copy and paste into the general chat. If you give me the link to the show, I can post it onto my Telegram. Okay. If you have a live link.
I think I only have the link with the that you join with.
That's not. How do these people all get into the chat? If you don't, are we live on Rumble or where are we live anywhere?
They're on that YouTube channel right there. That is
okay. Yeah,
come up on the chat, and Rumble is now too.
Are you able to paste that in the chat between us, the private chat? then I can put it on my Telegram, because I can't remember it. I mean, if it's too confusing or something, let's just skip it and move on.
Let me see if I can do it. Let's see if this works. I'll put it in the chat. Okay, I put the YouTube one in, and I put yours into your Telegram. And
okay, you need to put it in the private chat between us, because that's the only place I have access to.
Okay. The live link, you mean?
Yeah, a link for people to click on.
Yeah.
I just type
the YouTube one. I actually have. Let me see if I can find.
That's fine. One, it doesn't matter. Just one link is good. I actually I'm trying to broadcast this on my Facebook, and it might be working, but I don't know if it is. So I have no idea. Okay. I never used this particular version of platform, so I don't know anything about it.
Okay. Well, next time I have a way of when we do a show again sometime, I'll send you the information that you can do pairs, like you can put it on all of your different channels at the same time.
Okay, well, I think I've got the Gail from Gaia YouTube link that you just gave me. I just posted on my Telegram. That's all I wanted to do, so that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, that'll work for now. Okay. The other... have you heard, has the Mel Gibson documentary come out yet?
No, I guess, you know, so. I forget what that's going to be about. I'm not a
child trafficking.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that I know of. You know, I think it'd be pretty obvious if it was out there, unless I just haven't been paying attention to the right place.
Well, I knew it was coming, but I don't know if it's got here yet. Is what it boils down to.
Maybe somebody watching this might know.
Yeah, if anybody out there knows about the documentary that Mel Gibson is creating, and you know anything about it, please put it in the chat. I just think that it's going to be a part of disclosure. I'm not sure how they're planning on doing disclosure, if it's, you know, because everybody wonders, why haven't they taken over the MSN? Why haven't they just gone into NBC, ABC, MSN, or whatever, and, you know, said, okay, we're replacing everybody here because you're not telling anybody the truth. Well, apparently they're not doing it that way.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying earlier, but I think that it's, you know, they've made a decision not to do that, unfortunately. I mean, again, I probably wouldn't agree with that, but I think what they're doing is just to make fools of these people, because they have to lie. They cannot actually, with a straight face, go out there and do anything other than lie, because the world is not going to go their way, and so they can only find fault with Trump. But if he does only good things, then they're not going to have anything to say. And sure, there's lots to question, but the reality is that they have made a decision not to take down the mainstream media. I mean, unfortunately, from my point of view, I would say, but they are doing this on purpose, no doubt. You know, yes, I think they have the ability. In fact, I think he's had that ability all along. I think that, I mean, it's kind of a point of contention for me, because I think they could have done a lot more with alternative media. What they really did was concentrate on two things, which is the Q disclosures and then 107 as the spokesperson. I mean, that was pretty much their PR, you know, in every way. So instead of going in and taking down various places, I mean, they did get Elon to buy Twitter and make it X, so that they would have some freedom of speech. Because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm banned all over YouTube. I mean, every time they see me, and I have dozens of email addresses that I've tried to start new accounts with, and they always find out and they keep throwing me off YouTube. And they just did it recently again. So it's just insane. I mean, they are not allowing free speech. That's just a fact. But I have to say that even when you're deceiving people, and the White Hats and Trump are deceiving people in certain ways. They're telling the truth in some ways, which of course we applaud, but they're not telling the whole truth. And when you withhold the truth, then you've got people that are misunderstanding, that are finding fault and being critical with good reason, right? And the Kennedy assassination is one such term. I mean, it's a situation where the top people, and that's who matters, all right? It's not the lower level. I mean, Johnson is low level in the Kennedy assassination. Pinning it on him is stupid, frankly. He's just a low level. He's just a flunky doing what he's told. So this is a very high level operation, and it did involve the Pope at the time and the Vatican, and probably still does. So, the secrecy is still handled by those people. They're still pulling the strings, in essence, behind the scenes. I can see it. And now, I mean, it's actually, I don't know, it's kind of like viewing a society that is so completely compromised that they don't get the real truth until more than 20 years later. And even then, when it comes out, it's peppered with lies. I mean, what are we talking about here? What does that make humans look like? It just looks like they're so brain dead and so, able to be just vulnerable and patsies and their so-called leaders and their pundits out there. They're lying too. They're lying to their constituents, because some of them must know some of the things I know, but they're just letting them sit out there with lies. It's just insane.
It is. How can anybody make good decisions based on lies?
Exactly.
And then we have the population is being poisoned and is brainwashed and mind controlled. Duh. I mean,
right. And this has been going on. Now Trump is saying he wants to get into the chemtrails. You know why? Because the chemtrails are run by the military. He knows this. He knows it's a military operation. But the way they play these politics, he's not allowed to say that, okay? This is a war. It's an out and out war with the deep state. And that war is not over. And people that think it is over are so deceived. It's pathetic. And, I just can't stress that enough. This is one example of that, okay? He's mincing words with regard to the chemtrails. The chemtrails are there. They're part of a shield that is actually not just over the United States, but they're in plenty over England. I go to England all the time. The skies are littered with chemtrails, like thicker than even in the US. And other places, there are certain areas like Nice, where a lot of Illuminati, very wealthy people live, have no chemtrails, zero.
Gee, how convenient.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is and 107 has actually said this to his credit, but most people don't believe him, which is that those chemtrails are actually creating an electromagnetic shield over cities in the United States to actually cover up the incoming and outgoing ET craft, which is constant, so that humans don't know that they're being preyed upon by ETs, and good and bad, and that a war, literally a battle, is going on between these craft. Without the chemtrails, they can't hide it, okay? It helps magnify the presence of those craft, okay? And I don't know all the technical scientific things that are going on, but I do know from whistleblowers this is the case. So you think it's going to stop? It's not going to stop. Now, according to Juan, the reason it hasn't stopped and they didn't use some other technique that wouldn't poison humans is because they couldn't figure out the right chemical concoction to do what the chemtrails do. That may be true, but it seems that they should have figured it out by now. You know, a benign form of chemtrail, or even an invisible chemtrail.
And using aluminum of all things, that's giving people dementia. I mean, come on. And then they got fluoride in the water, which moves the aluminum even more into the brain.
Outing this, let me tell you this. If I don't see the Trump administration outing this in a big way and stopping it, then you know that they're working with the dark side in the end of the day. I mean, there are certain indicators where they're going to have to come forward to the people unequivocally, and the war is going to become visible. And hiding ETs and the ET presence and their ET influence on planet Earth, and the fact that there are negative ETs. Hello, Stephen Greer. I mean, he's a writer.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
And but I have to say, he must be mind controlled. Just like a lot of people. I mean, because he's in denial, because he can't understand, you know, but the reality, I mean, I'm not going to get into that because look, every human is a hybrid. Okay. And we're hybrid of various races that have come, plundered our planet, you know, gone into, having sex with the women, creating the women as, you know, even genetically engineering. So never having sex, but having the genetics and so on. This has been going on this planet since day one. And this is way beyond Adam and Eve and all that nonsense. So, you know, this is all the religious people out there want to hide their head in the sand and pretend none of that happened. Hello, it's not going to work. This is why the halls of Amenti and the possible constructions under the pyramid and the plateau of the pyramid is so crucial, and why they will fight tooth and nail to hide it, because that is going to reveal our ET heritage. It also would reveal the labyrinth, which has documented visuals on the fall of Atlantis, which was technology beyond what we have even right now, that contributed to the fall of Atlantis. Actually, you know, demolishing Atlantis more than once, breaking it up into 3 islands, so and so. I mean, it's not like I know everything, but I can tell you that, you know, 20 years of listening to people who actually tell the truth, you know, makes you quite aware of all sorts of things. And even my colleagues don't want to hear from me. I mean, and 107 has tried to stop them from interviewing me. I mean, I know this because
that's because you get to the bottom of things, and
it comes back to
you're
me.
afraid of because you're all about the truth, and that's a big part of it.
And you know, 1 minute Gene Decode will talk to me and thinks he's going to do it, and then all of a sudden he gets the word from his superiors, no, you can't talk to her, because they can't get that close to the real truth, to the real unequivocal truth, and they're afraid of it. They're afraid of the truth and what it will do to humanity. But, you know, it's okay
for them to be dying from the shots and being poisoned and everything else. But it's okay for them to be poisoned and get shots, and they're suffering and dying from that. And that continues to go on, and yet nothing's done about it. In fact, the truth hasn't even come out about that stupid shot yet. And that really makes me angry. I see people at pharmacies still promoting it, you know, and
well,
why
it's being exposed, but very slowly. And there are plenty of people that are still in the dark. I mean,
you see this. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but when you finish your comment, I want to
go ahead.
Well, what do you think about this comment here from Kim Brown? Trump is on negative side. Melania is his reptilian controller. If that's the case, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, but that's wrong. Actually, Melania is a Venusian, as far as I'm concerned. And she is his sort of ET contact. And Trump and John John Jr. got together as young men who were brought up in the Illuminati families and knew some of the truth. At least when you're in the Illuminati side, you get some real truth, and decided, and we're good-hearted people. See, the trouble with the left and people like that, who they can't acknowledge that Trump could have a good heart, that he could actually be a good person, having grown up at the feet of the Illuminati. The same thing with John. See, if that, I mean, I begged John Jr. to come forward, okay, as who he really is, and the fact that he didn't die in the plane crash and so on. Because if he was to stand next to Trump, then the whole world would have to question the fact that they think Trump is a negative, bad guy, because John, Jr. has, as far as most people would believe, has a good heart and is backing Trump wholeheartedly. And he, he's at Mar-a-Lago all the time. And, there's so many signs and signals, and I have so much stuff on my website about all this. But if you just are in denial and you read the signals wrong, you're not psychic and you're not a good filter and so forth, you have to just cop to it. But a lot of people will go to their deaths, really, not knowing and being in the dark. Okay. And sure, you can have a different point of view than I do, but what can I tell you? I am proven psychic, and I have seen things that happen before they happen. So what do you want to call that? I try to make sure. I can't say I'm always right, but I have a pretty good track record. And so, have you tested yourself that way, or not? And, what are you?
No, I haven't, to tell you the truth. I haven't, but,
Well, I'm sort of talking to the audience, you know what I mean? But,
oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't. But anyway. No.
Right. Well, you have to kind of be no nonsense about this stuff. If you think then put it to the test. Find out what you really know and what you don't know. And if you haven't been talking to whistleblowers for 20 years, maybe you just don't know, and that's okay. It's allowed, The fact
well, that's
is
a knowledge base that you have that others don't.
Sure. I mean, everyone brings what they bring to the table. I had a mission, and I wanted to reveal the truth to the people, and I still do every day. But I have people out there that lie about me like nobody's business. And it's just because when you're over the target, you get the flack, the sayings, how that goes. But exactly. Look, what can I say? I mean, recently I spoke at what's called the Bilderberg Fringe event down the hill at this big gathering in England in 2013. And my speech was recorded, thank God. And so I have a copy that's been on my Odyssey channel for all this time. And there's a person out there, I'm not going to use his name, but he actually was given a platform and allowed to go on before it's news. Somebody put it on there. And is just out and out lying about me because he hates me for some reason that I have no idea why. All I did was support him and give him a platform to reveal his own work. Some reason, this is what happens. Crazy. I mean, the Illuminati, they take people over. I think, if you have a drug problem, if you have a drinking problem, they can get close to you. They can, deceive you easier, and you're vulnerable, and so on and so forth. So this is what goes on. But I have proof that I was not up in the hill with the Bilderbergs and Hillary. I was down, and we had sharpshooters. We had black helicopters. We had families with children, 1,000 of them let in, and 1,000 of them on the outside of the perimeter around us, who weren't allowed to come in. They tried to take away our water. I mean, and I was speaking on a stage with David Icke and Alex Jones. This is where, I'm a fighter. Listen to my speech. It's on my website, projectcamelotportal.com, if you're interested. I just re-released it lately just to prove that, I have been fighting on behalf of humanity for over 20 years. I mean, I was a radical in college. I wanted, the truth to be told. And that's why I became a journalist, an investigative reporter, and a documentary filmmaker. And, so now I've been doing this for 20 years in public. And before that, I was doing it on my own. I was always, outspoken and telling the truth in all kinds of situations.
I know, that's why I like to have you on, Kerry, because I see that, and I know that just even from the little that I've done.
You pay a price.
Yeah.
You are as well, right? You understand. You get attacked.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say about YouTube, like you do. I do have one other YouTube channel that they don't know, because I don't sync it, that I use, the one that was up there. But the other time, if I'm just on general YouTube or whatever, I can't make a like, I can't make a comment. It immediately goes, you don't have a channel, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, all that, yeah.
So, I know what that's like.
I mean, see, and I want them to take down YouTube. I want YouTube to go up on charges, because they actually, ruined, they blocked my channel. I was with them for a good part of the years that I was doing this, which is around, 16, 17, 18 years. And then overnight they deleted me because of one sentence that actually Robert David Steele said in the middle of a video about the jab stuff. And that was it. They took it down at 12 midnight and I had a psychic feeling about it. I woke up and sure enough, they'd taken down my channel. So,
Yeah, that is kind of funny, waking up the next day and all of a sudden your whole channel's gone. They don't send you a file or anything. It's
and
just
my whole life was up there, my whole life, whole working life was there. Yeah. Luckily, it got saved by Odyssey, because previous to that, a lot of people's channels were being taken down out of the blue. Yeah. And so I thought, I've got to have backup. I've got to try to open another channel somewhere. So I started opening channels without even following through. I just opened them. I didn't even think about it. And then turned out that Odyssey had sucked up most of my videos, not all. I think there's probably
that's what happened to me too. I was able to get
number
some back
that are not on my Odyssey.com. But if you go to projecthamletportal.com and you look across the top, you'll see all my social media and all my channels and where they are. So we have BitChute and we have Rumble, and Rumble's where most of my videos go nowadays. Okay. I've had YouTube on and off, but they're all deleted. The most recent one, I think, lasted a week. Before, I mean, already they had, a reason to not like something, to want to censor me. Yeah. The censorship of journalists is just rampant. Yes, rampant.
I've seen that. And they've even jailed some of them in different places.
Right. And by the way, now Dr. Robert Young, who's been an incredible fighter for, medical freedom, especially during the COVID days, really just out there. And I've interviewed him dozens of times. And I just did a show with Matt Hazen, who works with him on what's called Masterpiece, which gets rid of the COVID, what are called
detox
nanographene oxide out of your body. And it does work. I recommend it. I use it. And but I have to say that, he's in jail. He's just languishing in jail right now because of false charges that were brought by a person who used his products and considered him a friend for 40 years. How sick is that? I mean, this person is really sick.
Let's talk about a backstabber. Yeah.
I mean, incredible. And it's probably some old person who's already lost most of their marbles anyway, and being egged on by some family member who's probably a complete psycho. I mean, this is what we're dealing with, okay? We're dealing with a society where you turn around and people knife you in the back and basically throw heroes like Robert Young in jail to stop them from healing people. I mean, and yet, and then they let the liars and the people who jab people, 60 ways till Sunday, and kids and killing them and killing older people, killing teenagers and killing all our athletes. I mean, look at if you just look at it, it is insane. I don't want to depress people, but really, people need to get with the program. They need to really understand the lies around them, which are constant, and speak about it. That's all. It's our only defense is to tell the truth against lies. So I do that. You do that. A lot of colleagues do that as best they can. We share information all night and all day in places like Telegram and so on, where we are allowed to, but a lot of that gets squelched. And then they attack somebody like Pam Bondi, who's a freedom fighter and who is doing, the best she can under the circumstances, and is being stonewalled in certain ways to do with the Kennedy assassination and various things. I mean, a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of, innuendo, a lot of bad blood going on. It's not a very pretty picture out there, frankly. But the good sign is that a lot of the truth that we have been waiting for this to come forward is at least coming to the fore, outing these things that for years and years and years, we have been told we are crazy about aliens, about chemtrails, about, you name it, right?
Right. Here, Karen McDonald was saying about, I'm sure she's referring to Dr. Young. They've got him on elder abuse and practicing medicine without a license. This is a continuation of suits over several years. Another round, this time he is being sentenced. I think Trump needs to pardon him. He is a fighter. He is a hero. He has information and
he also, by the way, has very clear disclaimers. They're called disclaimers. And so legally, they had no right to put him on charges in that court. No right whatsoever. So that's another. Our courts are so compromised. It's hideous. They did the same thing to Sean David Morton, who's passed on, as you know, but they basically, through those proceedings, what they did to him in court and threw him in jail afterwards, not allowing his defense, shutting him up at every turn during the trial. Then he was put into this, I guess you call it a white collar prison, but he was stripped, he was tortured. It's unbelievable what happened to him. And eventually got cancer. He, understandably couldn't handle what was happening, the terrible food. I mean, our prisons are full of basically injustice. And these people are fed on shit. Worse food than a rat eats. I hear. I mean, there's just no area, society that you can't sort of point a flashlight at and not uncover injustice, right?
Oh my God, yeah. And when is Admiralty law truly going to go away, which shouldn't be applied at all in the first place? Yeah. And that's part of the problem that works against the American people, and they don't realize that all of that is wrong. And against humanity.
Let me at least rebalance this slightly, because I know we're kind of ranting here, but I just want to say that, life is still beautiful. It's kind of amazing. I mean, people fall in love. They have lovely children. Those children are being educated. In some cases, they get smart. They take them out of schools. They educate them themselves. So there is hope for humanity. So I don't want to paint a picture that there's no hope. There is hope. And Trump and the White Hats are hope for humanity, as far as I'm concerned. They're not perfect. But under the circumstances, what we're fighting against, the dark side that has been predominant here on Earth for centuries, and I mean going back to the days of Egypt even and before, it's a no-brainer. It's an incredible sort of, entrenched enemy that you just have to
Very
acknowledge.
entrenched.
And
Yeah.
so they have to use some tactics that maybe you or I wouldn't necessarily agree with all the time, but they're incredibly successful, so far, and
Mhm.
more power to them,
Right. And they can, I think what happens too is we expect them to do something and then something else happens from the other side and then they have to readjust and revamp what they were going to do. And that, and that slows
but
things down and that
they do
frustrates
use
people.
that tactic. They use the tactic of letting the other person's mistakes stand.
Yeah.
To expose them at a later date, that kind of thing. So, I said it on another show. I think it's I don't know why I can't remember this guy's name, but this religious pundit that's always out there. And Trump, I think, kind of let him off the hook recently, but that was because, as Juan has said, that this person had actually done something good for once, and that helped the White Hats in some major way. So trade-offs happen. You understand what I'm saying? And unless you're in the power seat and can make those kinds of decisions, to judge from outside when you don't have all the information, right, is not a good idea. That's what's happening constantly. Yeah, and I feel that a lot of the press has not tried to understand the psychology of trying to take your country back and to try to put the U.S. on even footing, and all the inequities that have been going on around the world, and trying to set those scales right. And what does it take, So, so if Trump does something like says he's friends with King Charles, let me, just say that just sounds completely absurd. All right, because my sticks in the English have also been involved in stealing our elections and so on and so forth. I mean, it's ludicrous, but you can bet they have a purpose in mind. And so what you need to do is, like, you're reading a novel and you've gotten a clue, but you can't jump to a conclusion. Oh, therefore Trump's a bad guy, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what's happening. He's going to later, he's setting the scene to expose the truth later. And that's how they operate. You may not like the way they operate, but that's how they operate. And they're doing the best they can for humanity and to allow the slow learners among us to catch on, and giving them plenty of rope and time to do that. Okay. Not my favorite thing, but it's a fact.
And there's so many factors that people don't have, the information that they don't have, that that the Trump administration and the White Hats have. How you can't make decisions when you don't have all the information, especially when a good share of the information is based on lies anyway. So
right.
That's a big problem. What about, I just heard something about a Greenland and a child trafficking plan that went through Greenland, a plane, and it was full of children. That's kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, I have said this already. I recently had a whistleblower that I interviewed. I met him at a conference. He showed up there and came specifically to tell me his story. A lovely man. And that video is on my Rumble channel and on my website, projecthemlockportal.com. And it's all about being taken from Greenland to inner Earth, to see inner Earth.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
And
I didn't see that. Yeah.
At the same time, I also got a download about Greenland, and that Trump is trying to take over Greenland, and the U.S. military is kind of running it from behind the scenes anyway. But the reality is that it has everything to do with a jumping off point to inner Earth, and to that, in the North, the opening
Oh,
to
that
inner
whole.
Earth. So it's
Oh,
it's
wow.
people see, they just hear, oh, Trump wants to take over Greenland, and they think he's some maniacal kind of person. It's like so stupid, it couldn't be further from the truth, and the same with Canada. What's really happening there is that people don't know these stories, but we have been told that the continents are run by one person, okay, each group of continents. And that, in essence, from what I can tell, Trump is trying to take control of the North American section and expand his own territories in that way, because that whatever Illuminati one person is a dark sider and making decisions for our world that we have no control over and governments have no control over. Nobody understands this game that's being played and how we're being controlled, again, by off-planet, races, and from the moon, from Mars, from an AI that's taken over the Earth, and from an AI that's taken over the moon, and an AI that was, there's so much that humans are not party to, not understanding about our world and why these certain things are going on. And that there's a whole part of humanity that has what we call reptilian DNA and is feeding on the other half. And that's where the child trafficking, horrible cannibalism, etc., comes from. These people are actually, I suppose you could say, they're victims of their own DNA that's screwed up and been, made this way. And they are part of a race that preys on humans. And so it makes logical sense that they themselves, having their DNA or a portion of it, would then prey on other humans and so on. So this is going on in secret societies. It's going on in churches, under churches, I'm told. Horrible.
Isn't that
You
amazing?
may be attending a church right now where they're drinking blood underneath the church. The Vatican is aware of all of this. They're part of it. It just goes on and on. And, to be in denial, I suppose you can go through your life in denial, but ultimately there's a reason all of this is coming forward, because it's true, because it's real. And you can pick and choose who you think is guilty and who you think is innocent, and so on and so forth. But the reality of child trafficking is an epidemic right now on our world. And there's a reason for that. Has everything to do with the alien takeover of the human genome.
Yes. Do you believe that okay, there's talk about them having a visible alien fighting each other to help wake people up? Is that still on the table?
Well,
Okay.
do you know Courtney Brown and his remote viewers? I mentioned him many times because they know the
Yes,
truth.
yes.
They know that there are battles going on in our skies, behind the scenes, where the good guy alien and their ships are being taken down by the bad guy. That's part of our secret space program. Because back in the day, and one of the best witnesses about this was William Tompkins, who was part of the Navy, who came forward as a whistleblower
Yes, I
to
remember
Gaia
that.
TV, where he actually got paid. And to me, we did, I can't remember, it was like a 3-hour interview, myself and Michael Schratt, an aerospace historian. And then he was supposed to come back and tell us more about the child trafficking stuff that he said was way worse than I could, quote unquote, ever imagine. And instead they stopped letting him talk to me. I got a phone call the night before the interview was supposed to take place, the second one. And he said, never speak to me, never call me. I'm not allowed to talk to you anymore, and hung up the phone.
Wow.
Which means that someone got to his handlers, his military handlers, and couldn't allow him to tell the real truth about the evils of human trafficking and the preying upon children and so on. So you know that a lot of truth is being still buried every day, and whistleblowers are still being killed and silenced, and I think when the white hats they protect them, but I think even they get the wrong story sometime. It's not so easy to always tell the
That's
one
sad.
thing from another.
You, you, you know what I had somebody said to me, how can there possibly be, what do they say, 800,000 missing children every year in the United States, when we would be hearing about mothers all across the country having fits about it.
Well, I'm sure they do in their local, jurisdictions, but I imagine a lot of these people
It's not going to
are
be on
silenced,
MSM.
the way all of us are. When you want to silence, when an Illuminati wants to hide something, they will try to silence the person who speaks the truth. And they will go about it in various ways. They will, they'll target them. So you'll get a person who is being targeted with electronics at night or during the day even. And there'll be, things that were supposed to go well in their life, jobs that they were supposed to get, money that was supposed to come in can be redirected. In other words, you can be tortured in so many different ways. You can appreciate that. Pressure is brought to bear.
Oh, definitely.
And I know
they can go after family members too.
Yes. And I know from whistleblowers that have told me the horror stories. I mean, two of the top whistleblowers, arguably Clifford Stone, who was part of crash retrievals, communicating with aliens that survived when they went to the crash retrieval. Let's see, I think he had his son died in a motorcycle accident. It probably wasn't an accident. They took him out. And then Bob Dean, his daughter supposedly committed suicide or whatever. So these are things that would just tear a person apart. Okay. That, they would, especially a person who's a whistleblower, they know immediately that their loved one was targeted because of what they did, what they said. So it works like that. So if you wonder how people are kept silent, it's, because the ones that speak out will be tortured in various ways that they have to torture a person, and I've been lucky so far, but I've been targeted in various ways of, some I've shared with the public and some I have not. But, the bottom line is not everyone is strong enough to withstand that stuff. And you really have to also have really good protection. And I feel that I have very good protection so far. And, being a whistleblower is there's a huge dilemma there, because you want to tell the truth. That's why you become a whistleblower, right? And you have the truth, and you have the truth, and you think humanity deserves the truth. But what it means is that you and your family will be targeted from then on, and you might not survive. That's a reality.
That's what keeps a lot of people quiet too, unfortunately.
Right.
I mean,
why would Monos have and wear a disguise? You know what I'm saying? It's a stupid disguise. You can see through it in a half a minute if you see him in person. But continues to wear a disguise. He will not come forward so far as John Jr., which is who he is. But you know why he doesn't do that? He says he's protecting his family. Whether that's actually true, whether it's way down the road from there, whether he's being pressured by his colleagues because he, for whatever, charismatic thing he might have, that would distract from the Trump team or whatever the hell. There's lots of mixed bags out there as to why people do what they do, right? It's not just one thing. So I think that's important to keep in mind.
I'm wondering if I just put this up here, Rip David Strait. I hadn't heard this. I don't know if that's true or not. Do you know anything about David Strait? If he died?
I hope that he's all right. I mean, as far as I knew, he was fine. If there's
Yeah.
information saying that he might have died, I'd certainly like to hear about it.
Yeah, Sleeping Giant said it. I don't know where he got the information from, unless you want to share that with us.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is what happens. And by the way, they can come after you years and years later, or members of your family. They don't forget. The Illuminati do not forget. They actually, they keep grudges. It's payback. It's like the days of the Godfather. They have a long memory. It goes on and on. It's really hideous, that stuff.
Wow.
When you're on the dark side, that's their whole life. Yeah.
Well, no, they have had people come out and say that the very leaders of the dark, the main characters, not all the minions, but the main guys, have been removed from the planet. Is there any truth in that?
The main characters of who?
The dark, the bad, the
dark side.
Yeah.
No, obviously not, because I didn't notice
I didn't
that.
think so.
I didn't see Israel have peace. I think they're still massacring, the Palestinians right and left, and every single day thousands are dying. I'm sure the Ukrainians are still dying. I didn't see any announcement of anything good that might have happened if those guys were gone. I think that's bullshit. What I think is that, if you're going to have a cessation of the dark side, you're going to see really good things happen literally overnight, and announcements being made of miracles. Okay. But that is not happening. In fact, it's the opposite. We're still hearing horror stories every day. And the battle rages on. So you draw your own conclusions. If you want to live in fairyland, go ahead. But there's lots of people that are suffering right now. In all walks of life, and in all countries.
Are we, well, I know the answer to this, but are we getting help from benevolent ETs?
Yes, and as Courtney Brown and his remote viewers are documenting this, their craft are being shot down by the dark side of the secret space program that's run by the reptilians. I was saying that, William Tompkins said that our secret space program has been built by the paperclip Nazis that came over after World War II. And basically, Werner von Braun became the head of it. And he was a Nazi, all-out Nazi, contrary to what people would have you believe. And, their mentality was, a top-down hierarchical, he built his space projects on the backs of slaves. That's what happened. And he came over to the United States. And William Tompkins talked about the benevolent Pleiadians who were also involved in helping us move forward into space, and the reptilians that were sabotaging us constantly. Now, if you choose to just ignore his testimony, he's a pretty prolific whistleblower, and he was like 93 or something. I can't remember how old he was, but when he started talking,
I remember I saw that interview a number of years ago, and I was, wow, it was kind of a jaw dropper at the time.
It is. It's hard not to take the man seriously, so yes. There are good ETs, plenty of them. In fact, contrary to that person who seems to have the wrong end of the stick, Melania is one such good ET that is put in place to safeguard Trump and to make sure that, the good prevails over that administration. I'm, convinced of it. You can think what you want.
Right. I have great respect for Melania and Trump, for that matter.
You must have intuition. You must have developed psychic psi abilities at this point to survive in our society and going forward. It's becoming more and more important that you're able to discern the truth from falsity, even if they never tell you the real truth.
Or if you don't have tons of evidence,
Yes.
hardcore evidence. I got people always saying, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence?
Sure. But it's everywhere. And it's also, again, if you really understand the sort of resonance, how truth resonates, humans are able to tell the truth from falsity. They really can. But the trouble is they've been so kind of dumbed down and mind controlled that a lot of them don't follow their intuition. They haven't learned to do that yet. It's not that they don't have it, all right? It's just that they haven't learned. This whole thing, it's a work in progress, obviously.
A big one. Definitely is. Definitely is. Well, we're coming up on time here pretty soon. So this is interesting. I hadn't heard that. The bar and maritime law were both abolished by royal decree on April 21st, 2022. Future proofs past. Royal decree.
Except they're still using it in the courts. So I don't know. Somebody's abolishing it, but someone's still doing it. So it's the typical bullshit.
And it needs to go. There's no doubt about that. But it hasn't gone.
You can pass a decree, especially as a president, right? You can pass all kinds of stuff. But if it doesn't stick or have holding power, and the dark side is able to just step in and take, and do what they want, which is what's happening, then, what good is it? It's just up. I proclaim that, the courts are completely taken over and they should be demolished. Okay.
I agree.
That's my proclamation. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. No. If Trump makes a proclamation, maybe it'll happen. Maybe not. Maybe there'll be pushback. That's what a war is all about,
Yes, and well, let me see if we got any other. Okay, well. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience before we come to an end here? Or we can keep going, but I'm trying to see if there's any questions.
Well, I'm not sure what direction you want to go. There's many directions I could always go, but I think we've been at it for a while. I'm not sure, but if people have, very specific questions they want to ask me, it can help.
I'm looking to see
that some of the most important things to keep in mind right now is the movement of humanity towards AI and how that's going to play out. I've been rewatching Battlestar Galactica, which is one of my favorite TV series. And that's really depicting the dilemmas of dealing with an ET race or an AI race or a race of androids. And we have been told in Camelot that the next real war after this so-called war with Iran and the war with China is basically just a rehearsal for the war with ETs. And that we're going to have a war of worlds on the surface of Earth, which we already do, but it's hidden. It's coming out more and more. Even the whistleblowers and the remote viewers are starting to reveal that, to humanity, even when humanity doesn't want to hear it. So, there's a reason why the UAP hearings, Congress is finally acknowledging the ET presence. And, they're still trying to dither over whether there's crash retrievals. I mean, they're so stupid. I don't know why they act so stupid. I like to think that people are not that stupid. I like to think that they know the truth and they're hiding it. That's probably what they're really doing. Okay. They're hiding it from the public, so they act like they don't know. But the reality is so much more obvious than that. And, this is the farce that we live in. We live in a farce where even people that you want to trust, that you might even admire, are lying to your face. I'm sorry, And if you don't hold them to it, if you don't, basically cross-examine them, ask them good questions like I do. You might become unpopular, but the reality is that's what we need. We need people to be relentless and not allow the lies to stand. You don't have two big congressional hearings and at the end of them sit around dithering, staring at the wall going, well, are ETs real? Do they really have crash retrievals? When a whole nother part of your society is reverse engineering them, and there's plenty of evidence to that effect. And when you go knock on the door of one of the bases, where you get a commander coming forward and saying, no, you're not allowed in. Why not? Because the secrets are being held even from Congress. If you think, or you don't realize they're being held from Congress, of course they're being held from you, okay? Journalists, even like the Signal ridiculousness, I mean, that smacks of a white hat operation from beginning to end, okay? Hegseth is not that stupid, all right? He's not going on there talking about who these things without a purpose in mind, okay? He's, this is the thing. You have to actually give these people credit for being much stupider than they can possibly be, or you have to acknowledge that they're part of an operation. The Signal situation was an operation, and I don't give a shit what lie 107 likes to tell, okay? Because he has to tell the lies they tell him to tell. I mean, this is the trouble. Both sides are lying to you, all right? But it just galls me that journalists don't see the signs of the lies, that they fall for the bullshit, okay? That, they just accidentally ended up with this well-known journalist who runs like this huge magazine, Atlantic magazine, in on the chat. Are you kidding me? They wanted that information out. Now, why they wanted it out, we don't necessarily know. I can see this. First of all, they're doing battles with the Houthis all the time. So an attack scenario is no big deal as far as I'm concerned, okay? But I'm a lay person. I'm not a military, mind and all that. But that's my take on that. So I think the actual knowledge of the attack was actually, is just like, business as usual, because that's what the United States is currently engaged in right now. So I don't think it was earth-shaking, intel. But the bottom line, did you watch I watched the whole session where they were in I forget what they call it, but the committee meeting where they were being cross-examined, the members of the Trump team who were in on the chat. And, it was so obvious. They have been told, don't say anything, don't reveal anything, because their answers were so buttoned up. I mean, it was so obvious. It has to be an operation, and it was an operation for a reason, okay? And they didn't do everything accidentally and be that stupid in this day and age. It's just not possible, okay, to be that stupid and still, be a Secretary of Defense or whatever the hell else. They had to know what was going on. They have to know every second to every day what's going on. That's part of their job, and so if you look at it like that, then you realize, first of all, what happened. Right now, I've been talking to people on Signal, and I have been telling them it's compromised. It's fucking compromised. And they're like always, even people that are supposed to be, they think they're part of the intelligence community, would say to me, oh no, well, it makes it harder for them to get the truth from me or whatever the fuck. But the reality is this stuff is known. The surveillance society is so advanced at this point. The AI surveillance society is so advanced at this point. You have to be deaf, dumb, and blind not to know that every communication is being surveilled. One of the reasons they have meetings down in Antarctica is because it's one of the few places where the surveillance technology can't quite get into certain places. And that's why they had that big meeting with 100 people that 107 was part of less than 6 months ago, where they never told you anything about what really went on. I do have a testimony of a remote viewer who saw some very interesting things. It's on my website, on my Substack, where I have a lot of articles. You can read about it. We probably don't have time to go into this stuff, but when you're examining stuff in the news, please ask yourself, is the person who's talking about this and the person who's being guilty of something, are they really that stupid? Okay. Are they really? I mean, in this day and age, do you not know that you're being surveilled? I mean, that great movie with Will Smith and Gene Hackman, I forget the name of it. Go watch it again.
Conspiracy Theory? Or no?
I don't.
Oh, that was Julia Roberts and
No,
that was the wrong one. That was a different one.
But anyway, I'm just saying, that was like back in the, I don't know, 80s or 60s or whatever that was. You know what I'm saying? Like they were there then. Where do you think they are now? Come on. Let's just, let's acknowledge what we're living in. Okay. Let's acknowledge it. They try to dumb you down. Okay. Do you know that every space age show doesn't show space age technology? Have you ever wondered why, whether it's Star Wars or something else, the planes, everything they use is just like the same year, the same technology? They don't show you the real technology. Why? Because it's such a huge secret. They don't want you to understand how far along they are. It's, and the reason I like Battlestar Galactica, because it cuts through a lot of that bullshit and gives you, a potential future of humanity that's probably the truth than most. So, that's my parting words is, ask yourself, is this person who's just got caught, really that stupid? Or is it an operation? Especially if the Trump team is involved, because that's what they do.
Cool. Yeah, that's what you as a journalist can tell other people how to evaluate things, and that's good. Yeah, I wish I had that training. But anyway, let's take this one last question, if you don't mind. What are your thoughts on ascension?
Well, I think it's reality for individuals. I think there is group ascensions that may be happening in the future. This whole thing with Egypt and what they're finding, as I said, is leading to what's called the halls of Amenti. And I've written a bunch of stuff on my Telegram, and I've written articles about it. But the bottom line is, and I've talked about this over and over again, but Ashiana Dean, she downloads information from the Guardians, and I traveled with her and her group to India and ended up getting information that she was getting downloaded into me while I was on that trip. So I realized that I must be to some degree in touch with them as well. And the bottom line is that her Voyager books contain the best history of humanity through the ages, going back millions of years. Literally, from seedings of humanity that failed and were restarted again. And this is the reality that we really come from. So I encourage, they're on the front page of my website. Just scroll down, you'll see the Voyager books, Voyager 1 and 2. The second one, called The Secrets of Amenti, involves ascension and how they tried to stop it, the dark side, and so on and so forth. When you're looking at all of this stuff, it's like anything. You have to discern what you think is true, if it resonates for you, if you can handle it, whatever it is. So I can't think for you. You're going to have to review the material and see how much it changes your view of humanity when you learn about these various things. But we live in God is much more multidimensional than people give him credit for, or her, and basically we're talking about every aspect of every part of life involves a multidimensional God consciousness. And so I think that that's really important to remember. and that, you know, there's no limits on God. It's not God over here and the devil over there and they're at war with each other. Okay. It's not like that. God is everything. If God is God and not some lower level God, he's not fighting with the dark side. He's comprises his entity, his everythingness involves yin and yang, light and dark. And the light shows up the truth in the dark, and the dark serves the light. So understanding on a deep level how the universe works, all of this is really important to be able to live with and, you know, go through your everyday life in the face of, you know, sometimes things that are extremely difficult to handle, like this whole adrenochrome highway bullshit.
Oh my God,
you know,
yeah.
Humans have been taken offline. They have been deceived so badly, and they need to pull themselves back out of this shit. And we're trying, you know, those of us that work on the good.
Definitely. Well, that's awesome. I was just seeing if there's anything else, but I that's wonderful. This has been very informative, and I really appreciate and thank you for coming on and bringing us up to date on all these things, because it's so important, and people working on their own consciousness, and I think their consciousness is expanding as the vibration of the planet goes up. Correct. So hopefully things will continue to get better and better as they go, as they say, the best is yet to come. So. Well, we're waiting for it. And thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that you
okay, you're welcome. And thank you, Gail, for all the good questions as well.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll call that a show or call it a wrap or whatever they call it. And I'll see. And I really appreciate your, you know, as coming on my show. I'm just, you know, a small in terms of numbers and so on and so forth. And you know, some people won't even do that, and that's why I really appreciate you. And I thank you for doing that. You don't hold that against me.
No problem. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It's a brand new day, and we'll be making history. Are you with me? Won't you stay? We have come so far. This is who we are, and like the rising sun, we have just begun to play our part. This is the time we form the chorus. Lift your voice for those before us. We can rely on one another. Feel the pride, let's show